What? The food? What? I mean, this is an area of history that's just like so deep.
And over the baguette.
Themes of empire, mission, inheritance, and destiny. Well, hello and welcome to What the Food. This is a podcast that aims to uncover the fascinating origin stories behind dishes from all around the world, both popular and obscure. If you're new to the podcast, thank you for joining us. Great to have you. And today is a special episode because it's the first time we've ever had a guest on the show. And what a way to kick it off. We're joined by Will Hughes, aka WhatWillyCook. Will's amassed a huge following on social media, sharing amazing recipes, trying out different restaurants and eateries, and doing all this with his absolutely hilarious comedic style. He's partnered up with Mob Kitchen as well, making amazing content with those guys, and he's got his own podcast called A Bit of a Mouthful, and he's just generally killing it. So Will, welcome to What the Food.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Unfortunately, I'm still here as well. You can't get rid of me. But yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure to have you here, Will. Thanks for coming on. And
thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry that I've been quite shit in timing and getting everything sorted, but it's good that we've got here.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Life finds a way.
It certainly does.
Yeah,
it certainly does.
And I hope you're ready for some absolute BuzzFeed level facts about pork pies.
That's exactly what I'm ready for. I've got a pork pie currently in my fridge, and I forgot. Obviously, I knew I was doing the podcast. I forgot temporarily what we were doing. And I don't normally have a pork pie in my fridge, even though I do like pork pie. But I had a friend come round the other day that's the walking, talking definition of the stereotypical pork pie eater, if you will. And he bought a pork pie round and left it in my fridge. And I had one of those moments where everything came rushing to my head the moment I saw the pork pie. I was like, I'm about to learn so much about pork pies this evening.
That's some synchronicity right there.
Andy has cracked open the pastry of what's hiding the information about the pork pie. He's speared through the internet swamp of that fucked up jelly stuff, and he's got himself balls deep in the porky mess to tell us all there is to know of the pork pie. Is that what's happened?
Yeah, that's it, mate. We're diving head first into the depths of pork pie paradise. That's where we're going.
Oh, beautiful, just beautiful.
I assume your mate's coming back for his pork pie.
No, fuck off. I'm going to eat it.
I've got
some lovely cheddar, and I've got some lovely spicy cranberry. Well, I guess it's chutney.
I feel a ploughman's it's working its way to the surface.
There's a ploughman's simmering away somewhere. But yeah, definitely. That's the plan. Yeah. If he does come back, he's just moved around the corner. Actually, this specific friend, and I've known him for years and years and years and years, and he moved to Dubai for a bit. He's just moved to near where I live, literally like a 5-minute walk away. And if the door rings and I go down and he stood there going, "Can I have my pork pie?" I mean, I've known him for almost 17 years now, I guess, but I'll punch him square in the chin.
Those 17 years don't mean nothing.
No one's taking that pork pie from me now. It's in the veg shelf where not even my housemates will get it. So, yeah.
Fair play. So, yeah, I was going to start off by asking if any of you guys had eaten a pork pie before, but obviously I think it's clear to say that you have. Yeah. And I know for a fact, Miles, that you have, because I've witnessed it with my own eyes, stood on the shambles in York.
Yes, yeah. That was the best pork pie I've ever had, still to this day.
What was so good about it?
It was like it's a bakery, isn't it, Andy? And then they do pork pies as well. But it was like warm, so it was like freshly baked.
Okay, that's
but the
great.
That's great. That's a start. Yeah. And then the pork inside, it was like chunks, like big chunks of pork, rather than kind of compressed pieces. So it's kind of like melted. Yes, it was. It was a bit like that. So it kind of just melted in my mouth. It was amazing.
Yeah, shout out to the Shambles Sausage and Pie Shop. That's what it's called.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So if you only ever have an hour in York, sack off the Minster, sack off the Jorvik Centre, and just head there. Just scran yourself through their inventory.
It's never been somewhere that I've had a weekend away planned, but now I know that there's some mentalist doing hot pork pies.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I might.
To be fair, I mean, York in general is a very foodie place, isn't it? There's all sorts of awesome pop-ups and things there.
Is it?
Yeah, man, really good food.
With trip up, we'll show you about.
We had some crepes the other week. Those crepes were
savoury crepes.
It was like savoury crepes. Yeah,
I might have to pop up there.
Yeah, man. Definitely worth a visit.
So I've got a little question for you guys. So just to see kind of how well you know your pies. Every year in Britain, we spend about £1 billion on pies. So 1 billion a year just on pies. And that's like sweet, savoury, hot or cold. But how much do you think pork pies contribute to that figure? To that 1 billion figure?
Oh, God.
I'm going to say...
You have to percentage.
Oh, yeah. How do you want it? Do you want it as a percentage or a number?
A number would be great.
I'm going to say 90,000.
Okay.
Oh,
conservative.
Yeah, I'm going to say like... how much was the total again?
1 billion.
Oh,
1 billion.
fuck. 1 billion. Oh, no.
Yeah, Billy. We're not talking Millie, we're talking Billy.
Right, okay, yeah. So I'm going to say... Well, I guess I'm going to say 900,000.
Okay.
Or 9 million? Wait, a billion is a million.
Yeah, I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
I'm having a math...
Didn't think I was doing maths this episode. That was the last thing I thought I was doing.
I'm having a mathematical pork problem. Okay, I'm just going to say a billion. Wait, so it's 1 billion.
Yes, 1 billion in total on pies, yeah.
And a billion is a million.
No, it's not. I think what a billion in today's money is 100 million.
Isn't it 1,000?
No, it's not.
Is it 1,000?
No, it's 1,000.
It's 1,000.
Yeah, 1,000 million.
Okay, I'm going to say 100 million.
Okay.
I'm saying 250 million. 25%.
It's 145 million.
Oh, bloody hell.
Will, you got it. You're the closest.
I was a bit close, yeah. But, well, I was off... well, I say a bit close. I was off by 40 million.
45, yeah.
40 million.
That's a lot, though. That's still a huge amount.
Imagine 145 million pork pies in a room. 145 million pounds worth of pork pies in a room.
I don't think there's an aircraft hangar big enough.
But I guess like every supermarket stocks pork pies, don't they?
Yeah.
So you've got, they're everywhere, aren't they?
Also, important to account for the 6 packs of mini pork pie.
Yes.
Because, I mean, that's if we're counting each pie as an individual pork trapped in a cage of pastry, then that's 6. And, if you're having a little party, people are often buying multiple of those. And I'm pretty sure they even do mini pork pies, don't they? So
they do.
That's a hell.
It's getting out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah, lot of pie.
Anyway, yeah, just in case anyone out there doesn't know what a pork pie is. A pork pie is a traditional English meat pie served either at room temperature or served cold, which, to be honest, kind of makes it sound a bit grim, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you put it like that, it does, yeah.
Imagine walking into a bakery and asking if they've got any room temperature pies and about. So a pork pie consists of a filling of roughly chopped pork and pork fat, various other meats and whatever, but normally it's just pork and pork fat. It's surrounded by a layer of jellied pork stock in a hot water crust pastry.
Just delicious.
Just delicious. Yeah, I know for a lot of people the jelly side of things makes them feel a bit uneasy. Bit squeamish maybe.
But I've always felt that with a pork pie though, like even though the jelly on its own is inherently quite gross and very similar to I tried jellied eels the other day and I hated them. I thought they were repulsive. But I was thinking, I was like, this jelly part is pretty much the same thing that goes round a pork pie. But I think without that jelly stuff, if you close your eyes and you have a perfect bite of pork pie, that jelly stuff is kind of what's providing like the moisture and the extra saltiness. So without that, a pork pie ceases to be quite what it should be, even though it is in itself quite a rank thing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, but in combination with the rest of it, it completes the
Exactly, yeah.
You've never taken a bite of a pork pie and thought, this could do with more jelly, have you?
I have. No, I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I absolutely have. I've had pork pie before, and I've thought I can't remember where I had it, but I remember tucking into a pork pie from somewhere, and it was like there was very, very little jelly, and there's nothing worse than a pork pie where the pork is too dry. And I don't know how old it was.
Although you can bring in mustard at that point.
Well, this is the thing. This is before before the introduction of condiments on this one. The pie on its own, but you are right. A bit of spreaded mustard, or even just some pickle.
Branston.
You'd never get your spoon in a pot of jelly and stir that on, would you? You just
get extra of that on the top.
Fuck that. This is just purely from a point of view of a person with minimal condiments, which I certainly am not. At any one time, I have over 30 hot sauces in my house.
Yeah. Have you had to rearrange the shelves on your fridge to fit them in because they're all fucking different heights? I had to do that recently.
Well, I did have to do that, and then what happened is the hot sauce people, of which there are many. I like hot sauce, don't get me wrong. I'd say the thing that I get sent most as someone who is doing things on the internet with food is hot sauce, and I'm always up for trying new hot sauce, but I've got so much hot sauce at the moment that there's a shelf in the fridge that's full. There's various other different hot sauces dotted around the fridge, and then genuinely outside of the fridge there's probably about 25 different hot sauces that are in cupboards and whatnot. Nice. And I've never tried any of them with a pork pie, but now I know that I have those and a pork pie in my fridge.
There you go.
I'm thinking,
come back to us on
slice
that.
it into lots of tiny little pieces and have a little drop of each hot sauce on it, and I'll just come back with which one's the best.
Well, you've got a YouTube channel, your hot pies.
Yeah.
That's what you've got there.
Pies.
Instead of hot ones, hot pies. Boom.
It's annoying because on the subject of pies, I've always wanted to say, Willie's Pies, but there is a guy called Will who has Willie's Pies as his Instagram thing, and it's his business, and he does make lovely pies. I don't think he's done a traditional pork pie. He's more of a chicken leek and mushroom, that kind of pie with maybe some sweet ones. But the Willie's Pie, it's not. I can't do that. Nightmare.
But yeah, I mean, by and large, pork pie, pretty simple stuff, really. But like the process of making it seems the absolute opposite of simple. Have you guys ever tried to make a pork pie before? Have you ever dipped your toes in the jelly of a pork pie before?
I have a fear of making pastry.
Yeah, it's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit long. So
I thought I'd just quickly fly through basically how to make a pork pie. So the first step to making a pork pie is obviously making the pastry. Now, this ain't some pastry you'd normally make for like a chicken pie or anything like that. This is a hot water pastry. So to make hot water pastry, you first have to whack your water, milk, diced lard and butter into a saucepan and heat it until the fat melts. Then you add this like fatty, horrible water mixture that you've just fucking concocted into flour and mix together into a dough, and then knead that until it's smooth and let this guy rest for about 20 minutes or so. Okay. Once it's rested, you get your meat mix sorted. So bacon, sausage, sage, rosemary, nutmeg, squirrel, whatever you've got lying about, whack it in there.
Nice.
And then once you've got that, you've obviously shaped your pies, and then get filling them. So use some ramekins, obviously roll out your pastry, whack your pastry in the ramekins, fill your shit in, and there's your pie really. And then you've obviously got your cuttings, your trimmings of your
where does the jelly come in?
Yeah, so you bake everything. So you put your pastry lid on, crimp it, go to the top so the heat can escape, and then you're ready to bake. Bake it until golden brown, and then once it's ready, once it's cooked, take it out, and then that is when you syringe that lovely jelly through the vents that you've cut at the top.
Oh, you get it goes in afterwards. A gelatin injection.
Exactly.
Yeah. I never knew that.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like it fills into the sides of the pork pie and sort of goes into the nooks and crevices of it. That's how you're meant to make it anyway. I think maybe like the ones in Tesco and shit are maybe like factory made, so maybe it's more of a
different process.
Those ones aren't from Melton Mowbray, are they?
That's the one, mate. That's the one.
That's where that is where they're from, isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll get into that.
The Melton Mowbray is like sort of East Midlands, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
But they syringe. I can't believe that. Yeah. They syringe it in.
Syringe it. Well, it's just like a little turkey baster, just straight in there, straight in the lid.
Very lovely. It kind of makes it sound like even more of a horrible thing than it already kind of.
I know.
Artificially,
we're trying to make it less like a lab experiment.
So who invented the pork pie?
Oh, we're getting into that now.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, I've covered the bare minimum there. This obviously isn't a cook along podcast, but gives you a general idea, doesn't it? But yeah, no. So now we're let's get down to why we're all here today, eh? Their history.
Let's get down to brass pies.
That's it. So yeah, pies themselves have been with us for centuries. So some historians even claim that pies were baked and eaten by the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greeks, and the Romans. Now, I'm not saying that Cleopatra or Mark Antony were scranning pork pies with spoons full of piccalilli, like in between plotting against Augustus.
Oh, that's a good one, piccalilli. Yeah.
Oh, that is a good one, isn't it?
With pork pie, yeah. Fuck yeah.
Both civilizations did have something that closely resembled the pies we know and love today. They weren't called pies. They were known as maybe like galettes, like kind of rustic free-form pies, usually made with like oats, wheat, rye and barley, sort of that was the pastry, and then they'd fill them with like honey and sort of bake them with hot coals. And yeah, I mean the ancient Egyptians, there's evidence that they incorporated like nuts, honey, fruits into this sort of bread dough, and we've actually got drawings etched on the tomb.
It was the ancient Egyptians invented bread, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe so. Them or the Babylonians, sort of around that same time.
Oh right, okay. They were very creative. creative with their things, weren't they? Their foods.
Yeah, finding creative ways to play around with wheat and grind it up into a powder and mix
jam
water
it
with
full of meat and veg and
things.
stuff.
Whatever the headline about.
Yeah.
Big up the pharaohs.
Big up Ramses II, because he loved pies so fucking much that he had them etched on his tomb in the Valley of Kings.
Ooh. Valley of Heroes.
That's like Greg from up north. He loved pies as well. He got them on his tombstone.
Yeah, just like Greg. Bloody hell.
Yeah,
fucking hell. R.I.P. Greg.
R.I.P. Greg.
Imagine getting like a slice of margarita or gyoza etched on the lid of your coffee.
You know what? I actually think I probably will have to have some form of gyoza on my coffee because I fucking love gyozas.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So it goes way back then, back to bloody Egyptians.
Way back, yeah.
Pharaohs.
So after the Egyptians, obviously come the Greeks, and the Greeks basically took the Egyptian recipes, enhanced them with pastry, and basically said that they invented them. It's not much.
Those fuckers.
Yeah, feta-eating fuckers. there's not a huge amount.
Jesus.
Offended a whole fucking nation.
Andy doesn't like...
We've started a problem here.
Yes, we're getting cancelled.
By the Greeks.
Oh, dear.
You and what army? Me and the Greek army. Oh, no.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's not much written evidence around this, and the Romans kind of take over, really. It might be because the Romans, there's more survived evidence sort of around the Roman period, so we just know more about it, but there's a few, like I think like Aristophanes said something about pies in a play or some shit like that. But
okay.
Now, I talked about the Babylonians just before, and they're sort of around the 2000 BCE era, and I managed to find a recipe for a chicken pie from that time.
Whoa.
It was inscribed on like a tablet that some archaeologists dug up.
Wait, you're telling me you didn't dig up the tablet?
Oh yeah, I've just got back actually.
What is this podcast?
Yeah. Jesus Christ, Miles was telling me that you're the best researcher he knows, and you couldn't even do basic archaeology.
COVID, mate. COVID. I couldn't.
Yeah.
We're on the red list.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think some kids at Yale University did it. They dug it up and they've archived it. But fuck me, I was trying to use the Yale University website and it just doesn't work. Just couldn't fucking get it to work. But
Doesn't work.
But I did find a brief summary on the BBC's website, and this is what it states.
One dish resembles a chicken pot pie, with layers of dough and chunks of bird smothered by a sort of Babylonian bechamel sauce. Its presentation also contains an element of surprise, as the bird dish was served covered by a crusty lid, which diners then opened to reveal the meat inside.
What a nice surprise, eh? For a moment, I fucking thought this pie was going to be empty. Got stuff in it, great.
Boom. Meat. Yeah, they were easily amused, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
Hang on a moment, this pastry bin's full of chicken.
Yes. Whoa.
I did not see that one coming.
No, fucking so surprised.
Right.
But yeah, I think as I said, we have the Romans to thank really for the carrying of the pie banner further than anybody else did.
They carried it all the way to the UK.
They absolutely did. And not just savoury as well, you know, sweet and savoury, and kind of like you said, it's carried through to sort of modern day pastry making. On the savoury end though, the first kind of meat based pies were not intended to be eaten as pies at all. What would happen is Romans would basically use the dough as a way to encase the meat to keep it from drying out.
Right.
They would then
preserve it.
Exactly. They would then go to wherever they were going and then peel away the pastry and just scran the meat inside.
A similar story to like the Cornish pasties, isn't it? You know, like the miners and stuff. Like I'm sure we'll cover that one day. It'll be a good episode. But that was kind of like the origin of that, wasn't it? Pastry just served to sort of keep their dirty coal hands off the meat.
Yeah, I think that was it.
And then it just ended up becoming part of the dish itself, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think that was it.
Similar
it was
thing.
Just like so they could transport the. Yeah. They put them in their little pockets, didn't they? In their like coat pockets.
Yeah,
and also that was the other thing. I think it like kept them warm like, in the morning, like if it was baked or something. But it's funny how like pastries used as different things because there's the other one that like I watched a show that was effectively a TV version of this podcast, and they were doing like actually it might not have been that, it might have been Hugh Fearnley Whittingshaw, but there was a section of that show where they were talking about the origins of certain things, and there was one that farmers used to have when they were working in the fields that had a savoury side and a sweet side, and it was split in half via a big bit of pastry. But the pastry wasn't really there to be eaten. It was just there to sort of be like the lunch
Just
box.
protect. Yeah. Well, it's environmentally friendly, isn't it? Like it can get thrown on the floor or thrown away and whatever. It's not going to do any harm.
You can feed it to your animals as well.
Yeah. I wonder if in in this modern day when we're trying to find environmentally friendly solutions to packaging, whether there's going to be a resurgence in carrying things in pastry.
I think there should be.
Yeah.
I think there should.
I think it would be fucking rude if there wasn't, frankly.
Everyone on the tube just got pork pies in every pocket.
Can you imagine? It would be It would be stunning.
Soup.
Soup.
Just lovely.
So, yeah, I mean, just out of interest, I looked for sort of the earliest Roman recipe for a pie, and I found one dating to around 160 BCE, and that involved a rye crust with goat's cheese and honey.
That sounds straight out of like Bethnal Green's hipster cafe.
That's an Ottolenghi recipe.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Say that again. What was it? Rye?
It's a rye crust with goat's cheese and honey.
Ooh.
Rather lovely. That made my moustache twirl up at the ends.
Exactly. And I'll order a matcha latte with that as well.
Yes, please.
Get that down. I also found a recipe for a ham and fig pie thanks to a guy called Patrick Fass and his book Around the Roman Table. This guy translated the original recipe from Latin, and it reads:
Boil the ham with a large number of dried figs and 3 bay leaves. Remove the skin and make diagonal incisions into the meat. Pour in honey. Then make a dough of oil and flour and wrap the ham in it. Take it out of the oven when the dough is cooked and serve.
Well, so he's kind of using the honey there as like kind of a substitute for the jelly almost. Well, not him, the Romans.
Yeah.
He didn't make that recipe.
But also ham and honey is kind of like a tried and tested flavour combination, isn't it?
Ham and honey works pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you said ham, I thought you meant like Parma ham, but no, that sounds like they're boiling
Sounds
ham.
like a big old boiled ham, doesn't it?
Because I was thinking figs and Parma ham's a nice combination, but this.
Yeah, maybe you're right though. It could be.
Could be. I don't know, but still.
Well, it says remove the skin and make diagonal incisions into the meat, so it looks like they're scoring the meat, aren't they?
Just a big hunk of pork.
And then they're pouring in the honey. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
So the delights of the pie quickly spread throughout Europe via obviously the Roman roads, which they very kindly built, and every country basically adapted the recipes to their customs, their foods, what they had growing, what they were able to grow, etc. So thanks to the kind of like mutable form of the pie, it was easy for any country or any culture to pick it up and basically run with it and make it their own. They could do whatever they want with it. Spices, local meats, local vegetables, whatever they wanted.
The crust is like the crust is quite a generic flavour, isn't it? And it'll just go with anything, like you said. So all these different countries with different ingredients that are easy for them to get hold of and stuff. It's just going to cause them to
You
change
say
it
that,
up.
but the actual the crust did change from the Romans to the English. You know, because obviously in a pie crust, unlike bread, it needs to be made with some kind of fat. Like fat is like the primary or one of the primary ingredients that makes it different from bread. And obviously in Rome and sort of around the Mediterranean, the fat of choice was olive oil, which is great in a pizza dough, pasta dough, but it limits how easily the crust can be shaped. Whereas in Northern Europe, where it's fucking cold as shit and olives do
Pig
not...
fat, lard,
exactly.
and fucking grease.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't grow olives in...
Grimsby.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so other fats were used, like lard or butter.
Right.
And this change basically allowed bakers to be more flexible in their crust shaping and brought us one step closer to that modern pie we love today. Yeah, so whilst pies did kind of spread all over Europe, there was one country in particular that had the biggest influence on the history of the pie and pie culture. It was obviously England, wasn't it?
It were England.
It were England.
Of course, it must have been England.
Founders of the PDL, Pie Defence League. It's England.
It's interesting, isn't it, though? A lot of EDL members are probably very into pie.
Yeah, probably their dish of choice most nights.
Certainly is. No, I said that as if I know, but I'm not a member of the EDL, so... I mean...
Just to get that out there, yeah, I'm not...
I mean, of course, the brutal irony is probably that their favourite meal is chicken tikka masala.
Yeah,
something that's got its grounds in other cultures from elsewhere.
I mean, it does, even though it is from Glasgow, so, madness. Just bloody madness. But pies.
But pies, yeah. So the Oxford English Dictionary records pastry as a word by the mid-14th century, and medieval Latin included the word pie, meaning meat or fish included in pastry, from around 1303. So this name pie is thought to have been first used in the 14th century. However, we are not exactly sure sort of the etymology of the word, where it came from. There are guesses though, and the best guess is that it's connected to the magpie.
Ooh.
Not because they used to scran magpie pie, but because it's a bird that is known for collecting objects to line its nest.
Ooh, like building a pie.
Yeah, exactly. But little side note though, can you eat a magpie?
You can, but you have to put the meat in milk.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, you have to, and apparently it's still fucking gross.
Yeah.
I think,
Anything that takes that much like attention to be palatable, just why?
Yeah, you have to like leave it in milk for ages apparently. But my mate's dad, he's a shepherd. He was a shepherd. He's retired now. And on his farm, magpies are basically little twats. They'll land on the back of sheep and eat them alive. So they'll land on the back of a sheep and like peck into the sheep's back, and it's really fucked up. So my mate's dad was like, "Here's an air rifle, shoot these,
do what you will,
fucking magpies." And I was kind of like, "Well, I'm not going to kill something unless I'm going to eat it."
Yeah.
And he was like, "You do not want to eat this."
He was like, "You can eat magpies, but they are gross." So in the end, I just shot one of the sheep and ate that.
After all that.
No, I definitely didn't do that. But yeah, like magpies meant to be gross.
Yeah. So I googled that exact phrase as well, just to, obviously the internet's great for shit like this. So I came across a forum, and this lovely little comment that Miles is going to read right now is from a real person.
Legally, in the UK, you are within your rights to humanely kill and eat magpies, but I was speaking to an old bloke who foraged to survive during World War II, and he says they aren't very nice. Not much meat, too stringy and chewy. He recommended taking the babies out of the nest as they are nice and tender.
What a fucking freak.
Absolute savage. So he's going around into like climbing up trees trying to find little magpie nests.
Babies.
Oh, little babies, yeah, they're tender, they are. Fucking hell.
Jesus Christ. What an absolute wrong-un.
Yeah, but then at the same time, we can't we can't hound him too badly because he was an old bloke who was foraging to survive during World War II.
Yeah, you're damn
so
right.
when you're up against the wall, sometimes you got to chew a stringy, chewy magpie baby.
Well, I think a baby magpie is probably going to taste better than grass.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
I'll let him off.
So anyway, the idea is that just as a magpie collects things for their nest, the baker collects things to put in his pie.
Fair enough.
It's an interesting theory, and it kind of largely ties in with the fact that the English were not fussy at all with what they put in their pies, just as a magpie isn't fussy with what it uses as its nest.
I thought it might come from the number pi.
Oh, what with? Because that's like it's mathematical to do with a circle, isn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. So I thought perhaps, but obviously, there are things that are pies that aren't necessarily circles. But yeah, I mean, I thought that maybe it might have something to do with the number because of circles. But maybe not.
We'll never know the truth.
We'll never know the truth. It's like eels, man.
We did an episode on eels.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, weird.
Nuts.
I'm currently reading The Gospel of the Eels by Patrick Svensson, which is about where eels come from. And I mean, if this was a podcast about eels and not pies, I would now continue to talk for about half an hour.
About eels. Yeah. Well,
eels are mysterious. Turns out pies are as well.
Yeah. Well, our episode on eels was mad. It was like we were talking about them jumping on land and like eating farmers' crops and shit. Sometimes.
Yeah,
There's been reports of them doing that.
Spooky dudes.
Insane animals.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you could put eels in a pork pie. No, that'd be fucking gross. Although smoked eel is like really nice, and eel can be really nice, but jellied eels can fuck off.
You sound so passionate about that.
Oh, I hate them.
Right. I agree with you.
Ironically, the irony as well is that the only time I've ever tried jellied eels was in a pie shop. They're synonymous with
pie and mash.
Yeah, East End pie and mash.
Yeah, which is just a weird combination of foods that just don't feel like they go together at all.
It's bizarre.
It's all weird.
It's bizarre. I'd have a pork pie over a traditional East End pie. What comes with mash? Any day of the week.
Yeah.
I think I would too.
Definitely. But so if you were to walk into any medieval English kitchen, you'd find pies made from chickens, pigeons, rabbits, crows, blackbirds, whatever really. If it could be caught and cooked, its final destination was in a pastry. Now, the English and pies are especially intertwined because not every language has a separate word for pie. So some languages tend to call pie words that look more like tart. So like in the Dutch, you've got tart with 2 A's. And the Portuguese, you've got torta, or pastry. Like in the Spanish, you've got pastel, or in the German, you've got pastetti.
And those encompass like anything that we would consider as a pie.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. Now that doesn't mean there aren't pies in other places, but it does imply that it was a more defined category in England than in other places.
Yeah.
If we just take a step back to the 12th century, pies were a commonplace dish in England, but they were still often seen as a way to keep meat fresh. By the middle of the 16th century, we first started to see the word coffin being used to describe the pie crust, which
got dead things in it.
yeah, it's coffin with a Y, so COFFYN.
Okay.
Which obviously
Still sounds rather macabre.
Yeah. But despite sounding deathly, it means basket. So essentially, you're dealing with a meat basket,
Okay.
which is kind of what a coffin is, to be fair.
That's true. That is true.
Now, while the written record supports the idea that pie crusts were not meant to be eaten at this point in history, a lady called Janet Clarkson, who is an author of a book called Pie: A Global History, argues that it may have been a matter of class. So, you've got your English nobility in the castles, who would have been perfectly okay with throwing away the dough that encased their preserved meats into the bin. The lower classes wouldn't have been so blessed to be able to do that. Medieval serfs weren't exactly rolling in food and could not be so picky with throwing away the pastry that was edible, really. The consumption of the crusts may have gone from the lower classes up and then just sort of continued. As time gone, it reached the upper classes, and then chefs figured out how to make more delicate pastry and then more tasty pastry, and we can flavour it.
Phyllo, for example. That's the most delicate one I can think of.
Yeah.
Good food always starts with peasants. I'm telling you.
That's true. No, that is true.
Because creativity comes a lot of the time when your back's up against it, isn't it? When you're like fighting for survival and you've got to use the things that are around you in a creative way. When you're forced to be creative, that's when you get the best results, in it. And like in this podcast, we've kind of come across this notion time and time again, haven't we? Of just peasants being the creators of these amazing dishes. And I think most of the time it's just due to the necessity of needing to feed their family and just use what there is. Yeah. It's interesting in this case that we think that the eating of the crust and not just the meat kind of started with the peasants and then became like a noble thing. It's quite interesting that it's gone that direction, as opposed to peasants being influenced by the rich and influential people. It's interesting that it's that way around this time. But
the peasants seem to know what they're doing in the kitchen.
They do.
Is that because obviously would the cooks be in the past peasants?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's an element of that. A lot of the cooks that served under, your lords, your dukes, your kings would have been of the lower class. But then you've also got like your farmers' wives, your peasants just in the kitchen who have obviously got a limited amount of ingredients, and they're just doing the best they can to make those ingredients palatable to get the best out of them. So like they've not got loads of spices that they can use to flavour things, so they have to use a really small amount of ingredients and use them in the best way possible just to make their lives not a complete misery.
Good old peasants.
Good old peasants.
Well, I guess if you haven't got loads of different ingredients to choose from, your attention then kind of gets put on the way in which you then cook the food, not what it is you cook. Do you know what I mean? Like then it's like, maybe I'll slow cook this on a low heat for like 8 hours instead of, and it's like then suddenly you're getting like
which
the technique.
Which is always best.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's like the attention goes from what to have to how to have, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. It's less the content, more the context.
Yes, exactly.
Is that a good line? Does that make sense?
Put that on your LinkedIn, mate. Get that on there.
Stick that on my gravestone with a picture of a fucking gyoza.
Yeah, that's the one.
Nice.
Yeah, so by the 16th century, we do see like an increase in sweet pies. You've got custard pies coming into the equation, fruit pies, and basically around this period is when the age of pie experimentation began. But of course, we're interested in one pie today, and that is of the pork variety.
The porky boy.
Porky boy, please. So the first recorded proto-pork pie recipe appears in the medieval manuscript known as the Form of Curry. It's not double R. One.
Oh. I was hoping you were going to say the Magna Carta.
yeah, right at the bottom, little asterisk.
Yeah. Just in case you wanted to know, as well as all this information, here's how you make a pork pie, and in hundreds of years' time, they will sell these in Tesco's.
Yeah.
But the Form of Curry is the oldest known instructive cookery book written in the English language.
Wow.
Yeah, the text is thought to have been written around the 14th century by the master cooks of Richard II.
Whoa.
So the book itself contains 196 recipes, and the text states that these recipes are intended to teach a cook to make everyday dishes, as well as unusually spiced and spectacular dishes for banquets. So it's kind of got like a bit of everything. Kind of your Jamie Visits Italy type book.
You can host a party with it, but you can also feed the kids on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It's actually the first piece of English text to mention olive oil, cloves, mace, and gourds in relation to British food as well.
Oh.
So there is actually a pork pie recipe in there, or a close resemblance to a pork pie recipe in the form of curry. It's called the milates of pork, and I'd like Miles to try and read the Latin recipe just to see how he goes on.
Huey pork al 2 percies and medal it with ariaran and chese grated. Do perto pordau fort saffron and pyrenees with salt and make a crust in a trap. Bake it well, peren, and secu it forth.
Beautiful. Imagine if we all just still knocked about chatting to each other like that.
Honestly, that would be excellent.
Wouldn't it? The world would be a fancier place.
I would simply love to be able to talk like that, but I can't.
I think out of that whole sentence, I got salt. That was it.
At one point, didn't you say beshaved or becrusted or something?
Percies and medal it. So maybe he's like mortar and pestle, medal, with a ches grated. Is that cheese grated?
Grated, that's it, yeah.
Ches grated. De porto powder, so powder, of saffron and pyrenees with salt, and make a crust in a tripe. Bake it well, perrine, and seru it forth. Fuck knows.
Anyway, I did translate it into modern day English. Fancy giving that a go.
Meat pie of pork. Cut pork all to pieces and mix it with eggs and grated cheese. Add powder fort, spice mix, saffron and pine nuts. Add salt. Make a pie shell. Put in the filling. Bake it and serve it forth.
There you go.
Wow.
Not as fanciful, but
Again, no timings.
Simple.
There's no timings. There's no temperature. Like what?
No.
Like it's just a sentence, isn't it? Like
They don't even tell you what equipment you should be using.
I know. It's so useless. How
I love
long?
the-
It says
the
it
last
just says
bit.
bake it and serve it forth.
Nah, it doesn't. It says bake it well.
Bake it well and serve it forth. Right, okay.
That means bake it until it's ready, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And serve it forth just means to just
Don't
give
forget
it
it.
to whoever you see.
Yeah.
The first person you see,
Spread it.
give them the pie. I'm a vegetarian. No, you're not. It's the 14th century. Fuck off.
Fuck off.
Eat my pie.
Yeah. But it's got saffron and pine nuts in it. It kind of sounds upmarket.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fucking mad, actually, for a 14th century recipe. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't think that they'd have those
Yeah,
things. Saffron's expensive as fuck.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And they're just
Well,
knocking
but
around
bear,
in the...
bear in mind, this book was written by the master cooks of the King of England, who is probably one of the most powerful kings of Europe at the time. So he had a plug.
He was a baller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had shelves
He
of
had a
saffron.
plug.
The chances are he was a baller.
Called him on the trap phone. Got saffron delivered.
Yeah.
Minutes ago. But yeah, I mean, the recipe's pretty similar sounding, maybe. You know, the jelly's missing, and there is both cheese and eggs in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, apart from the pork and the crust, it's not really similar at all. But you know, getting there.
I quite like the addition of the cheese, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't really see that much cheese in pork pies, do you?
No.
No, but I've noticed that a lot of people put grated cheddar in sausage rolls, which I think is a great thing to do.
Yeah. And also maybe grated cheese in your pastry mix as well. You know, like when you get cheese twists and they're kind of like, there's cheese
Yeah.
incorporated in the pastry as well, isn't there? Imagine that kind of sounds like a pie that's maybe got a cheese.
Yeah, I like that. I like that
Yeah,
idea. In fact, I might have to do something about that. I might have to whip a cheese pastry pie up.
Yeah, get that going. Well, we'll have to wait until around the 18th century in a town located in the East Midlands until we see a pork pie that closely resembles our modern day version.
Was it Melton Mowbray?
It was Melton Mowbray. It was.
I bloody saw that one coming, didn't I?
So between 1750 and 1850, Britain passed laws basically which converted common land into the private property of large landowners. Right. So loads of people lost out, obviously.
Just had land stolen off them.
Yeah, basically by lords and counts and whatever else. But what happened is this sort of change in law sprang a thriving dairy industry, and therefore like cheese making became all the rage. This is like the golden era of English cheeses. And one of the most popular English cheeses, and remains popular to this day, is Stilton cheese. Now, Stilton cheese was first made in the East Midlands near a small town in Leicestershire called Melton Mowbray.
Melton Mowbray.
Yeah, sound familiar, doesn't it?
I have been there many times.
So they're making Stilton near Melton Mowbray.
They're making Stilton near Melton Mowbray. But you might be wondering, Miles, I just heard you ask, what the hell does Stilton have to do with pork pies?
Yeah.
They don't put cheese in the pie, do they?
What in God's green earth could it have to do with pork pies?
Well, you see, thanks to the growth of the cheese-making industry, cheesemakers had an abundance of whey left over, which is like a...
It's a waste product.
It is.
Exactly, it's a waste product, but it's protein-rich. And above all, it's a free source of sustenance for livestock, including pigs.
Oh, so the excess Stilton whey is being used to feed the fatty Melton Mowbray piggies.
Exactly.
The fat Melton Mowbray piggies for pies.
Basically, this whey is perfect for Pepper and his family, and just became a common feature. Pigs in Melton,
Right.
The eating of pigs became a common feature in their diet.
And they thought, how can we spice this up?
Boom.
Pie.
Why is everyone having heart attacks all of a sudden?
Something in the water.
Yeah, as they
poison.
eat pork like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, day in, day out.
Yeah.
What is it that's changed around here?
It's the tastiest meat, but it's not good for you.
Exactly.
Things are thought to have started in Melton Mowbray around the year 1831, when a small bakery and confectionery shop in the town basically started off making pies as a side hustle.
Okay.
The owner was a guy called Edward Adcock, and he baked his pies originally in like a clay pot, covered them with a rough pastry, and that was a pork pie, really. The pork pie sort of
Started there.
evolved from there, really. Yeah, so I think his original ones weren't all encased in pastry. I think they just had kind of like a rough pastry top.
I've seen some open top ones before.
Oh, yeah.
Often like in butchers, like when they've got little pie bits, and then sometimes there's like, because you get all sorts, don't you? You kind of get like the gala pies, which has got the egg in it. You get like all these different variations, but I've seen one circular, like the normal pork pie, but just no lid on it, which was kind of weird. But,
Don't they kind of like crimp the lid in a little bit?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the ones you mean.
So the pies themselves are thought to have evolved mainly because, again, people wanted to eat them on the move, and
Speed
people
pie.
And they're thought to have become incredibly popular with hunters and farmhands of the area, because
makes sense.
they could carry around a full meal in their pockets that would be preserved, and they could eat it whenever they were not stalking or fucking sowing a field or whatever they do. But yeah, fun fact, it's thought that the pies' relationship with fox hunters and sort of their eating of the pies while they're out and about is why pork pies are considered a picnic food.
Whoa, because of the fox hunters taking it with them.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can see it now, like the upper echelons of English society kind of like descending on a place to take part in fox hunting, a favourite pastime of the upper elite.
Yeah.
They spot the farmhands and the guides and, the people that are actually experienced but are being paid to, give them a tour and take them on fox hunting, eating their rough pastry pork pie.
Yeah.
And they want a slice of the action. They want a slice of the pie.
And probably taking out like a wedge of cheese with them as well. And
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of butter or something that they've got about. And before you know it, there's a fucking fox catching picnic happening.
So,
It really was the fox catchers who really set the tone for a picky bits lunch, didn't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? When you're having your picky bits, you've got your little bits of cheese and
a couple of grapes.
Oh, a few grapes, bit of bread and butter.
Yeah.
Nice. And then
Beautiful.
the pork sodding pie.
Yeah, just a lovely,
There it is.
like wholesome picnic followed by brutally killing foxes in the afternoon.
Brutally murdering.
And getting dogs to absolutely ravage them to pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all fairs in love and pie.
Yeah. So it's in this way that they became associated with picnics, high teas, shooting teas. Anytime you eat a pie outside, basically.
Well,
I
Outdoor
sometimes
food.
go outside to eat a pie.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't eat pies indoors.
No, bit of fresh air.
Well, it's not that really. It's the flaky pastry. If that gets on the floor and the carpet, you're in trouble.
yeah.
You're in trouble, aren't you?
That and the fact that I come from a very long line of fox hunters.
And you just have to do it. It's part of the tradition.
It's just a natural calling. I see a pie, I'd take it outside for a nibble.
Yeah, you also, when you're out and about, regardless of the occasion, if you see a fox, you do have to run after it. You're just gone.
True.
It happens every time we see you, but you're just out, you're gone.
I'll tell you what, if I was a fox hunter, I'd sleep a lot better. Where I live in London, the fucking foxes, they staged the most enormous gangbangs every evening.
Sounds like you need a pork pie and a double barrel shotgun, lad.
Yeah, you're not wrong, mate. They're all just like a fucking hound that I can throw down into their little their den is directly below my window, just over to the right.
Oh, that's convenient.
There's a garden next door that isn't quite as looked after, and the foxes have made their little den there.
Yeah.
And there's always this fucking weird bloke just sat on the roof of this thing eating pie. Just really weird,
proper odd guy.
But no, they just shag at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know what it is. I think it's their mating call, but it's like.
It's honestly, the sound of foxes is horrendous, isn't it? They're so cute, but the sound they make is just not
visually nice, but. The sound of them, Jesus Christ,
not great.
No. So we have the fox hunters to thank for the old picnic.
The old picnic. Well, the Pork Pies Association with the old picnic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the old picnic.
The old picnic.
The old picnic, mate.
So yeah, within the next decade, you've got a number of other bakers cropping up, starting to bake their own pork pies, supplying them to the locals, to the visitors of the town. Most notably of which, a guy called Enoch Evans. Cool name, Enoch. Don't really see that much anymore nowadays.
No, it's a shit name. Imagine how much bullying you'd be subjected to if your parents called you Enoch.
Enoch.
Jesus.
What the fuck?
Imagine if you were really small and really hairy as well. They call you Enoch the Ewok.
That's it.
We've got a friend called Dom who we used to be absolute passionate, avid players of World of Warcraft, Will. And
nice.
And Dom, our friend, I'm pretty sure he had a character that was called Enoch, didn't he?
Enoch, and he was a gnome as well. So you're absolutely
he's tiny and hairy. Spot on. Shout out to Dom. Our
Enoch, this Enoch that we're talking about here, not Dom's Enoch Evans. He was a former grocer. 3'4", who seemed to have basically been particularly responsible for establishing the pork pie industry on a large scale.
Right.
So, small guy, big dreams.
He's the he's the McDonald's. What's the guy called?
Ray Kroc.
Ray Kroc.
Yeah, this guy sounds like the Ray Kroc of the pork pie world.
He does. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Making it global.
He is. According to a book that I read called Melton Mowbray Pork Pie Industry by J.E. Brownlow, which, never thought in my life I'd be sat on an evening reading a book about the pork pie industry in Melton Mowbray, but funny how life goes, isn't it? In Brownlow's book, he states that demand continued to grow, and in 1860 or thereabouts, Enoch Evans built the first pork pie factory, and quickly thereafter many of his townsfolk followed suit and opened up their own factories. So kind of at this point you've basically got Melton Mowbray is a pork pie mania.
Yeah, taking over the town.
Exactly. You've got travelling tradesmen, hunters and merchants discovering the pie, transporting the pie to all corners of the country, telling their mates about it, and then other people flooding into Melton Mowbray and, melting pot, basically. Spreading the good word of the pork pie.
I think the name Melton Mowbray kind of pulls a lot of the weight of that, because it's just a nice sounding place, isn't it?
It's for some reason, I don't know what it is, but it just sounds like the kind of place that pork pie should come from.
It does. Yeah. It does.
Like Melton Mowbray. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it just works, doesn't it?
It's melt in your mouth, flaky pastry. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just
melty.
It just works,
Yeah, Mowbray kind of makes you feel of like, I don't know, it just all feels kind of outdoory, quite fresh.
Melton Mowbray. Full of fox murderers having picnics.
Exactly.
Spot on. So just in case you guys don't know the difference between your standard runt of a pork pie and the superior Melton Mowbray variety. So the main distinctive feature of a Melton pie, it's made with a hand-formed crust.
Right.
So in order for it to be a Melton Mowbray pork pie, it has to be hand-formed. The crust has to be. And also the meat of the Melton pie is kind of uncured, so it's kind of grey in colour when cooked. And also the meat is chopped rather than minced, which is what you were talking about right at the beginning, Miles. You know, you were on about that York pork pie.
Yeah, it's just bigger chunks.
Bigger chunks, exactly. Also you'll notice a difference because in the way that the pies are baked in Melton Mowbray, they're baked in what's called freestanding, which mean like the sides kind of bow outwards rather than being your kind of perfect vertical molded pie. They kind of go outwards just because like the pastry expands as it's cooked.
Right. I like how they like to distinguish theirs as the one with the grey meat as opposed to the fresh looking pink colour of pork.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Grey is not really the best colour for edible
flogging
stuff,
edible things.
Not great, is it? Not great.
Yeah, it happens.
Anyway, each their own. It works, doesn't it? So
yeah, exactly. So we've kind of got the pie, the modern pork pie in itself. The sort of next addition to this wonderful dish was the lovely lumpy jelly, which we all know and love. So the whole point of jelly is obviously, as we've already said, to kind of not dry it out, but it was also kind of there to ensure that the pastry itself didn't crumble, you know, because obviously people are carrying these things as they're walking, as they're hunting, as they're doing work or whatever. They're in the bags or in the pockets, or however the fuck they're carrying it. I don't know how people in the Middle Ages carried pies, but you know, people are doing shit when they're carrying these things. And the jelly, once the jelly cools, it kind of forms like a bit of glue, really. It's kind of glue to the pastry and the meat. So this Melton Mowbray version became so iconic that in around 2009, they achieved Protected Geographical Status, or PDO, which puts them right up there with champagne and Parma ham.
So it can only be called that thing if it's made in that place.
Exactly.
And they've got the certificate to prove it.
That's the one.
Nice.
Obviously, this isn't the only type of pork pie knocking about these days. You know, you've got your Yorkshire pork pie, which we've talked about before. Usually, you'll get a Yorkshire pork pie served with hot gravy, as obviously everything in Yorkshire with hot gravy.
With gravy.
As it should be.
As it should.
As the Lord intended.
Fucking dry this. Fuck my gravy.
You'll also find variations like the gala pie, which is, you know, you're basically a pork pie with a hard-boiled egg running through the middle of it.
It's like a long rectangle, isn't it? And they cut it into like slices along, don't they?
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird.
Weird, isn't it? It is weird.
It's well weird.
So how many eggs have you got in it then? If you...
They have to make the long egg.
Yeah, it's just one long egg.
No. I think there is a way of making the long egg.
Oh, really?
What?
I thought it was just like...
I'm pretty sure they make the long egg.
How?
maybe they do, because
they just get a long chicken, don't they? That's all.
I swear, no. I think there is a way of making a long egg. I saw something about it before. It's fucking weird.
It wouldn't make sense because I'm always confused because like you've got this long rectangle thing and it's got like eggs, you know, all the way through it.
Way through it.
But then you're always going to get a slice that lands in between two eggs, which would have like no egg in it.
Well, that's what.
And no one's going to be wanting that piece of gala pie.
I mean, it's bloody weird, isn't it?
Let's look into that because that's let's look into that.
Yeah,
something fishy's going on. Some sorcery, some fucking long egg sorceries happening.
There's egg magic happening.
Yeah.
There is. And finally, you'll also find pork pies. You know, your lattice topped pork pies. You know, them fancy boys. I don't fuck about with those ones.
Not a fan of them. They can fuck right off me.
Yeah.
I like my pork pies handmade in Melton Mowbray and crimped at top.
Crimped at top with dirty hands.
Oh, the dirtiest hands.
The more dirty, the better taste. And dirty it now.
Dirty me pie.
3, 2, 1, dirty it now.
Just disgusting.
So that's largely it for the history of the pork pie.
Yeah.
You know, obviously covered lots of different eras of history right here.
Yeah.
But I would like to finish by giving honourable mention to the MMPPA.
The Melton Mowbray Pie Association.
That's the one. Yeah, you're obviously a member.
He's signed up.
Is it? All right, nice.
Got his card.
Yeah, I'm a card-carrying member.
Right. So what's this company doing then?
Oh, it's not a company, Miles. It's an association.
This isn't a company, man. This is an association.
It's not the MMPPC. It's the MMPPA.
That's a different group.
Please put some respect on my association.
How are they legitimising themselves?
Okay, well, the association was founded in 1998 and is run by a group of 8 producers of the genuine Melton Mowbray pork pie.
Right.
That's, from what I understood, it's basically the pork pie mafia. It's like the families of New York, but in Melton. So they have a list of demands.
You come to me on the day of my daughter's first pie. How dare you?
So they have like on the website. They have a website, obviously, because why wouldn't they have a website? They have a list of demands and objectives for what they want to achieve.
Demands.
Why they exist.
Sounds like a terrorist organisation now.
I'd like you to read a couple of their demands, please, Rolls.
Protect the integrity of the Malton Mowbray pork pie and raise standards in the production of the pies. To promote the Melton Mowbray pork pie so that as many people as possible are able to try this famous regional food. Protect the consumer from being misled about the provenance and quality of the Melton Mowbray pork pies.
What accent do you think people in the East Midlands have?
Yeah, I'm going to go Yorkshire,
because it ain't that.
I mean,
that's not right.
It is a weird accent. They call people like duck and stuff.
Yeah,
so, all right, duck. And, yeah, it's weird. Like it's clearly its own thing, but
hard to replicate if you don't live there.
Yeah, unless you've got a mouthful of Melton Mowbray pork pie.
That's the only way to do it.
It's the only way to replicate it.
Right. But well, from the sound of those quotes, though, they're taking this shit very seriously.
Yeah.
Protect the integrity of the Melton Mowbray pie. They want to promote the Melton Mowbray pie so that as many people as possible are able to try this famous regional food. And they also want to protect the consumer from being misled about the provenance and quality of the Melton Mowbray pork pies.
I wonder how they're doing that.
They just stood in the aisle of Tesco. No, not that one. Not that one.
Don't get that one. Get
not
this
that one. No, not that one. No, not that one. Yeah, that's the one. That one. Get four.
I did actually find another society called the High Pie Society, which describes themselves as an underground secret pie club in Newcastle for pie enthusiasts to get together for monthly-ish events and talk about all things pastry-based.
Oh my god.
They sound fun. I like the sound of them.
The wives of all of the people, all of the members are just like, every week on a Wednesday you come home stinking of pie every Wednesday.
You come home, you've got crumbs all down your shirt.
Yeah, you've got meaty juice around the corners of your lips. I don't want to kiss you.
It's disgusting. You smell like mince.
Oh, well, there we go. That's a comprehensive history of the pork pie.
I feel like I know a lot more about pork pies now.
Yes, just giving an appreciation for food that we eat and don't think much else about.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to go to a dinner party now and tell everyone all the stuff that I've learned about pork pie.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been awesome.
That's my pleasure.
We really appreciate you jumping on.
Had a lovely time.
Well, that's it, guys. Yeah, thank you for listening, and hope you're enjoying the podcast. And we will see you next episode.
See you then.
See you guys.
Bye.
Good pie.